Radio Solent.
With Julian Clegg.
BBC Radio Solent.
So today on our big conversation, we're talking about men expressing their feelings, and basically, are men rubbish at telling everyone else how they feel, or not? And what do you think? 0845 30 30 961. Nigel from Lamford, who's a relationship practitioner, rang 0845 30 30 961 to join in. Good morning, Nigel.
Good morning, Julian.
And we're going to you and I are going to talk more after the news, but
okay.
Kevin, I'm going to bring this up because the one time I know you didn't hold back, Kev, was when you came on the air and spoke about your daughter going off to university.
Yeah, I know. It's probably the most emotional I've been, I think, for as long as I can ever remember.
Because that was quite tough. Did you hear that show, Nigel?
Yes, I think I did.
Yeah. Okay, what made you do that? Because, you are, if I may be honest, you might be regarded as a typical bloke who might not give out your emotions.
So, well, that's right. Well, we've all got a sensitive side, some of it deeper than others, but it's like anything, those you most care about affect you the most. And, of course, my wife, my daughters are the most important people in my life.
Very touching. So, Nigel, we're going to sort of develop this theme after the news at 9 o'clock. Just a quick thought on what you do. Do you see a lot of blokes and give them advice on their relationships, or what? How does it work?
I work with my wife, Jenny, and we see couples, and therefore what we're working on is the dynamic in the relationship and the communication that is or isn't happening. And so what Kevin's saying, he'll talk about his daughter. Very often we will talk about our children. They get inside the walls and boundaries that we put up to stop other people getting to us.
Well, look, stay there. We'll talk some more after the news at 9 because we have a longer conversation then. And join in. Nigel from Lamford's rung 0845 30 30 961. You can do that as well. Let me know what you think, and let's talk more between now and 9:30.
BBC Radio Solent.
With Julian Clegg.
BBC Radio Solent.
So today on our big conversation, we're talking about men expressing their feelings, and basically, are men rubbish at telling everyone else how they feel, or not? And what do you think? 0845 30 30 961. Nigel from Lamford, who's a relationship practitioner, rang 0845 30 30 961 to join in. Claire, who's taking your calls and looking at your comments on the text and the Facebook page, is with me as well. Claire, thank you. Nigel, just to start with you were just saying before the news at 9, you have to deal with, obviously, couples. Are the blokes the worst part of the couple to sort this out with, if you see what I mean?
The men have more difficulty in expressing emotions, and it's partly to do with the way our brains are configured, because neuroscience has now proved that men and women are different, just in case people didn't know that. And
so that's a good point, because there's a lot of saying, we're all the same.
Yeah,
we're not.
We're not the same. And men have only one place for emotion, which is towards the top on the right-hand side, and we can cut it off. So we learn quite early on, usually about the age of 5, that to be emotional with other boys is not a good thing, because men operate very much on status. So if you come out with something that allows other men to put you down, or boys to put you down, they will. And men will josh each other about their injuries or other things, and are not sympathetic. We just tease each other.
So we basically, I suppose, going back to the days of the jungle or whatever, caveman, that would have been seen as a weakness.
Yes.
So therefore, we actually genetically will hide our problems as young as 5.
We will indeed. And of course, what we tend to do, many men will go inside to think about their issues and look for a solution. And if they can't find a solution inside, they assume there is no solution. It's just their problem. And so they put up and shut up.
Claire.
That's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, as the woman in the studio with me this morning. You were telling me, can I ask you this, Claire? You were telling me off air that you had a boyfriend for how many years?
10 years.
Tell me about tell me about it, because it's a bit personal.
He was a bit of a showman, and from the outside you would think, happy-go-Larry, everything right in the world, but he was a very depressed individual, bless him. And we're still in touch now, although very rarely. But yeah, he would get very low. I'd do that awful thing of keep asking if he was all right, which actually is, I don't know, it kind of feels the worst thing, because somebody can't quite describe to you what the problem is. But I would keep going in with, are you okay? Is there anything I can do? Is there anything, do you want me to leave you alone? Do you want me to, and I think, bless him, it drove him mad. But I think he's gone as far as, he's kind of like the Stephen Fry of of depression, the kind of bipolar. Everything looks fine from the outside, but inside, bless him, there was a lot of torment going on. But actually, he went to the doctors about it, and I know, obviously, if you are depressed, you can get medication. But actually, he's learnt to live with it, and it actually makes him the person he is.
Interesting. Nigel, when you've got a couple there and they're talking about their relationship, and you've just told me about men not wanting to speak out.
Yeah.
Those chaps we had on in the last hour saying it was their other halves that made them speak out. Obviously, in your circumstance, they're unlikely to help their partner, perhaps if there's a breakdown in a relationship, to speak out. So it makes it worse, doesn't it?
It does. They're very frustrated because they can't get their man to talk. And Nick and Russell, on Your Place in Time, they said it's been prized out by their women folk. And it is a bit like that. You know, the woman goes, right, okay, let's get the sledgehammer out and the chisel and see if I can get some of this stuff out of you. And, of course, then what we do is we go further back in because we don't have the language that women have to discuss our emotions. Women do it all the time. They're trained from early on to talk about emotional things. Men are trained from early on to not talk about emotional things. And so we don't actually have the language. And it's about helping men to know that it's okay to talk about these things and they're not broken. They're entitled to their emotions and their feelings, and we just need to give them a bit more time to get it out and not go, well, come on, tell me, what is it?
So, Claire, what are people saying to us via the interactive area? Facebook, I know, is very busy on this one today.
Well, yes, and it's a fascinating thing that Nigel was mentioning there. Sue Kenworthy says, it's still not really accepted as a British thing to do, or is it? Our society is happy to accept men showing anger or frustration because that's a macho display of testosterone, but displaying a sensitive side is risky and uncomfortable as it exposes vulnerability. Keeping a stiff upper lip has robbed men of their connection with their feelings.
Ooh, so our question this morning, Nigel, before we break for music, could men do better at showing their emotions? And you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I thought you might. Thank you very much indeed. What do you think? 0845 30 30 961. Text Solent to 81333 with your comments and your story. Email Julian Clegg at bbc.co.uk. The Facebook page, the Julian Clegg Breakfast Show Facebook page. Join up as a friend. We'd love you to do that as well. And we're on Twitter as well, at BBC Radio Solent.